Thank you very much. My name, you've been told, I'm Josephine Mugambi. I'm a consultant in the development sector. And by profession, I'm an animal scientist. I'm trained in animal science, animal production at bachelor's at Egerton, and my postgraduate again in University of Nairobi. I focus mainly on beef nutrition, dairy, livestock nutrition generally, fodder systems, and other farmer-centric solutions that ensure productivity, resilience, and at the end of the day, improving economic growth in the livestock subsector. So I've worked in the livestock industry for over 20 years. I've worked with smallholder farmers, I've worked with commercial farmers in Kenya, in East Africa, in Africa, and a bit of it in Asia. I work for a company called Spad Africa Consulting, and I'm one of the co-founders and director, and I work there as a consultant. I would like to package a little, to unpack a bit on what we do. In this particular portfolio of livestock advisory, we are working with Gatsby Africa to support investors in beef production, largely the secondary production. We are working with over about 15 or so partners with Gatsby, and we also have our own private portfolio. So we approach our advisory work holistically. For a beef investor, we'll sit down, we look at what are your ambitions, what do you want to produce, how many cattle do you want to finish, for which market, what are your resources in terms of land, and we take time to understand your farm, your topography, and we ask questions like, where are we going to get water? So from there now, we are able to understand what package best works for this farm in terms of the secondary finishing. Is it an intensive feedlot? Is it a hybrid? Or is it even an extensive system? And on that basis, now we can package a fodder production plan. And that plan now will work with our team. We have a team of different experts. We have engineers in irrigation, civil. We also have nutritionists in life, animal nutritionists, and we also have fodder experts, and also business, because of the business perspectives of these enterprises. So we now look at it, and therefore we work on the water solutions, we grow fodder together, and then from there we formulate the rations and we feed. So that is how we do our advisory work. And today, I'm honored to actually host this masterclass on silage as a productivity lever in beef finishing. And the whole tagline from our point of view is that every bite counts. And this is true because, you know, with beef finishing, what you feed and consistently is what will determine what you'll get or the returns from your investment. So you can go to the next slide. Yes, so we quickly highlight what it really takes to get it right in beef finishing. So what is beef finishing here? We are talking about livestock that have been grown from a primary production system, and now we want to bring them to a secondary production system. And our main goal here is to quickly finish them. That is, have them build carcasses, meat quality, fat distribution, so that you can be able to meet the market requirement. So it is a marathon. It is not a marathon, it's a stint, because it is a small window to make sure we get correct in terms of quality of the carcass, in terms of the gains, the weight gains, and in terms of also meeting the market specifications, even in terms of fat distribution. So it's a high efficiency system, and we want to look for rapid weight gains and also meet the market specifications. And so that is why we are saying every bite counts. So next slide. So now, why are we talking about silage? So I've provided a definition of silage, but it's basically a fermented forage, a forage that has been put under fermentation under the right conditions so that you can preserve its nutrients for feeding at a later date. So the most important thing is preserving at the right time when we have the right nutrient, and then putting it in a condition where we sustain those nutrients until the time we are feeding our livestock. So let's just back a bit. Yeah, so why we are talking, why silage as a lever one, it's because it offers density, it has bulk, and it has nutrient density that we need for energy, and it also has very good digestible energy that the cow needs. You don't need to give the cow a lot of feed so that it can meet its nutritional needs. So it is quite efficient, and therefore when you give like this high digestible feed, which is a forage, you also avoid other complications. If you look at like cases where we have high grain finishing systems, again, feedlots, we using more grain and less of forages, then we also usually have problems of acidosis, where now the rumen environment is not conducive for the bacteria that usually ferment the silage or the forage to become, the silage. So when it's not conducive, then the acidity, the stomach will be more acid, and this bacteria will not work, and you have now digestion problems. You start having problems with intake. You start having problems with the weight gains, and a host of other issues. So next. So that is why that digestibility component is quite significant. The other thing is that I would say that silage is actually a system. Not just a feed, but it's also a system. Why? Because you get reliability. Once you make your silage, you get it right from production up to the ensiling, then it is reliable. You can go wherever you are, and you have good feeds. You don't have to worry, it is reliable. It is predictable because once you produce based on a given feeding plan, for example, you have this number of cattle you are feeding, you're supposed to use this amount of silage per day, so for these 100 cows, I should have this silage, and I have produced, I have stored. My farm, everything is predictable. I can even be able to plan my farm. Cost efficiency, it's quite cost efficient, and there's a lot of, it is believed that feedlotting intensively is expensive, and yes, it can be, depending on the strategy that you're using, but with the silage, if you can be able to make it well, you produce well in terms of your cost of production, you get it under maybe 5 shillings a kilo, and this is the bulk of your feed, then it's going to be cost efficient at the end of the day. But on the vice versa, if you used grain, it's quite expensive. For example, if you used a lot more on maybe the maize germ or other concentrates, more of it, it's going to be very expensive. So silage makes it a bit cheaper, not a bit, but quite cheap for the investor. Then longevity, silage can stay for many, many, many years. And we have a case of a farmer we visited in Laikipia, and he gave us an example of when they moved into the farm, they didn't know what was in the farm, and many years later, when they were plowing, they were able to open up a silage pit that no one knew about. So what they saw cattle running because of the, that sweet smell of silage. They saw cattle running towards the pit. So when they realized that this silage has been in the pit for over 20 years, and it was still in good condition. So If you store it well, it can serve you because of that longevity. You don't need a lot of space to keep silage. You can put 1 acre in a very small piece of land. Not even you can put 50 acres in a very small piece of land once you harvest. You can install in the above surface bunker, you can put under the surface bunker, you can even put it in bales, so it has all flexibility. Not all silage is equal. We have different silage from different crops, from different forages, and in beef finishing, the question we ask is, which silage are we using? So if you take silage that is, for example, maize, if you have good rain or reliable rain or irrigation, then maize is considered like the best standard because it has good energy, it has protein. If you are in the semi-arid areas, you're not so sure of irrigation and what rain reliability, then sorghum is good. It still has good, there has good nutrients in terms of energy, there has proteins, could be slightly lower than maize, but it is still very good. And as Giles has said, it is also very good for fattening. We have very many varieties that have come up with very high energy levels. We have other forages like napier grass, and there's a lot of use of napier, especially the super napier and other varieties like John cow in the dairy sector, which have been really good with the dairy farmers. However, we have had a lot of farmers who are venturing into beef also embracing what's happening in dairy. So you find a lot of farmers want to grow some of these forages like, napier. The results can be very disappointing if you feed them to beef. Those who have I'm sure they have a story to tell. Why? Because if you take the result, if you analyze the nutritional profile of super napier and these other napier grasses, you'll find that it is very good in protein, very high protein, but very low in energy. So in beef fattening, as we said, the greatest need is energy because this animal has finished growing. So we don't need a lot of protein for growth. What we need is energy and a bit of protein just to put in meat and good fat cover in the finishing stage. So if you put a lot of, if you have this, then it will be very expensive because you have to keep topping up with more energy feeds, that is concentrate. It becomes expensive. And again, you find yourself risking the problem I talked about, the acidosis problem. So we are good with the napier in dairy, it's good, it's really good. But with the beef, the sorghum, the maize, even millets would be better option. Millet is a good option, although it's again for relatively drier places where water is not available because, of course, the nutritional profile could be slightly lower than the other two. Then we also have sorghum from legumes like lucerne and other legume crops. As a preservation method, silage, you can look at it as the strategy, as I mentioned, but you can also look at it just as a preservation. Maybe you have produced a lot of lucerne and you want to store it as silage. At this point, it doesn't ferment well. It doesn't ferment well. So you may have to add other sources of energy to be able to lower the pH if you are using the legume. So perhaps you make silage for preserving, but not necessarily as a feeding strategy. And the final word is consider the goal. In dairy, the fodder that we recommend for dairy is they have high protein, they have high rumen degradable proteins, while in the beef, we actually want more energy, less of protein, and we also want more rumen and degradable protein because you want this protein to be converted quickly into muscles and fat. Thank you. So I think when I said that it is a productivity lever, and you must get it right from the very beginning. I wanted to highlight some of the great considerations that you have to make so that you can get it right. And it all starts from the farm. So at the farm level, you have to get the right species. And I just explained, looking at your conditions, your production conditions, you can choose whether you want to do maize, whether you want to do sorghum, and then species. We have, like, for example, in maize, you have maize that has more biomass, maize that can be able to maybe to do double crops, and we have maybe maize that is very good for the, for the grain. So it is good to get advice so that you can buy the right variety, because what you want, the more the biomass, the material that you can harvest, the better in terms of the yield. Then soil health, we advise test your soil, because soil fertility will determine the yields that you get. If your crop is stunted or doesn't produce to its potential, then economically you're going to be losing. Then good timing of all your operations, including when you're harvesting, when you're baling, and all that. So you have to be very considerate of your timing. Watering, of course, if you are doing irrigation, or if you're a place that the rain is not reliable, you must have water, especially if you're growing sensitive crops like maize. Sometimes the rain can disappear when the maize is just about to pollinate. And then you realize you have very small crops. Some don't have crops. Some have got very few grains inside. Some have got, the stalks have not grown well. And what that happens is that the quality is already compromised, because it's in the cob that we get the grain, and the grain is what carries the starch, which actually is the energy that will be used by the cow. So we have to be very considerate in terms of providing water so that we don't have these challenges. When we harvest, it's also important. If you harvest too early, then you're going to get very high nutritional profile from your silage, but you may not get in terms of the biomass. Then again, if you wait for too long, you might get silage that is not digestible. Some of the nutrients may have been lost in the process of overstaying in the farm. We've done quite a number of lab analysis after a farmer has delayed even by 2 weeks, and you realize that that silage has lost a lot of energy, and sometimes now the farmer has to top up with perhaps other energy sources. Then you also look at the chopping length when you're cutting, because the chopping length will determine, when you come to compacting, when you use the right chopping length, like 1.5 to 2 centimeters, then that one can easily be compacted, and also the surface area for fermentation is increased. Next. So now we assume that we got it right in the field. We have fed our silage well in the growing season. We have now harvested. Now we have chopped it. We are taking it to our bunker for preservation. Silage preservation happens through the process of fermentation. So when you put it in that bunker, it is a whole science project that happens in that bunker, because the bacteria, there are some bacteria now which are going to feed on the sugars in that silage, and in the process they release certain acids that will preserve now the silage in that condition. And so when you're doing the bunker, therefore, it is going to be very, very cautious, because now that's what will determine whether all the effort that you put in the field are going to yield the productivity level that we are promising. So the first rule is you get rid of oxygen. Oxygen is an enemy of fermentation, because fermentation is an anaerobic bacteria. So process. So you have to get the oxygen out by compacting, proper compacting. So if you allow air in, then the silage is going to rot. So how to deal with that is you chop, you compact, and seal it, and you do it quickly. It's usually a very fast operation process. Next. The second rule is about wilting. Drying is not the best option. For silage, it is wilting. And wilting is just you're trying to reduce the moisture content so that it can be able to ferment, and you're also not going to lose a lot of nutrients through leaching if you have a lot of moisture. So, and also to make sure that the conditions will be favorable for fermentation. So there's usually a moisture content that is, for each crop, of course, there's a different moisture content that you should allow, but you cannot dry so much. If you are drying, then, as you are saying, it becomes hay. When we are wilting, we are making silage. So if it is too dry, then, as he's saying, it is not going to compact. It is going to trap in air because it won't compact well. So it means it will rot. Again, if it is too dry, also it will be a bit difficult for fermentation process to take place. So you must work within a certain moisture content levels. For different crops, you have different moisture levels, about 30, 35%. The third one is about pH. pH is the degree of acidity or alkalinity in a certain of a certain like in silage, how acid is it, how alkaline is it, and the best pH is acidity around 4 to 4.2. Why is it that? Because fermentation really it releases lactic acid, which is supposed to retain or sustain the silage over a given period of time. So that is when fermentation will work best. If you don't hit that pH as soon as possible, then your silage will start rotting. And how best to do it? How do you do it? You wilt very fast. You don't spend a lot of time. You wilt very fast, because if you delay, again, it will start perspiring, or it will start using oxygen and eating the sugars, which were supposed to be used by the microbes in the fermentation process. You also make sure the sugars are right. For example, you see, if you wait for the crop to overgrow, then it means it has used most of its sugars, so fermentation may not be good because the sugars are not enough. Or certain crops which do not have a lot of sugar, then you chop it fine, as we said, and then you also compact tight to expel oxygen, and then seal immediately, so that you can be able to have the pH come down as fast as possible. Next. Number 4, and I think the final bit, don't guess, test the results. Each silage pit, or rather each silage production cycle, might produce unique silage, because it depends on the production factors. If the crop did not have good crops, if the crop did not have, it was a bit delayed in the farm. So each cycle is different. Sometimes people use secondary information. You just say maybe this is how much maize silage should have in terms of the nutritional profile, only to realize that it is completely different. So it is very important to do this precision kind of production, where once you get your silage, take it to the lab, get to understand the nutritional profile, know whether I have the right energy, do I have the right dry matter. 1, you'll know how to formulate now your beef ration. 2, you'll also learn. And we have seen quite a number of farmers learning from this process of, getting precision in terms of your formulation practices. So it's advisable. You might think the silage is great, but maybe it is not. Yeah, I guess that should be the end of my presentation. Unless now, if there's a question, we can proceed to the panel. Thank you.
Makofi tena tafadhali for Mrs. Josephine. Josephine, thank you very much. I think I personally have learned a lot about silage, and I think that applies to the audience here. We will take questions later. For now, we will get right into the panel discussion. Please have a seat Josephine Mugambi will be amongst our panelists for this panel discussion that will take maximum 25 minutes, and we will take questions. But Josephine will not be alone. She will be joined by an investor in this particular industry. This is Mr. Michael Mureithi from Gatiko Beef. Michael Mureithi, karibu sana. Let's appreciate him as he makes his way to the podium. They'll also be joined by Tito TB, who is the senior manager at Gatsby Africa. Tito, tafadhali, karibu sana. Makofi kwake. Remember, sit, follow, ask questions. Any question that you want to ask about this particular topic, feel free, feel easy. Let's have a conversation. So, lady and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'll start with my very, very first question, and that goes to you, Tito. You are an economist, and you know the cost of implication of quality feeds to cost of feeding per day and to profit and loss. Do you want to speak about that to the audience here?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Currently, I think we all know how the economy is faring, and I think we all are aware of trends in costs, etc. I think from the partners that we work with, or from the businesses that we work with, we see pressure points that try to cut the margins that they make from two sides. From input side, costs are going up, and also from the output side, quite a bit of inelasticity in terms of the price that can be charged or offtake price that can be obtained. And therefore, pricing or cost management is critical. I think, as Josephine has said, if one is able to produce as much of their own feed as possible, then they are able to reduce some of that cost. So in the case of silage, for example, by doing own production, there are two big costs that one reduces on. The first one is transportation costs. If you're buying silage, depending on where your farm is, or where your production is, and where the silage is being produced, then there'll be quite a big transportation costs. And from our analysis, that could even end up being 30 to 50% of the final cost of silage when it lands in your premises. Mm-hmm. The second big cost that one eradicates if they do their own production is that you do not then need to do wrapping and baling of the silage. As Josephine has said, you'd be able to then put it in a bunker, and that cost of wrapping and baling. So just as an example, cost of producing fodder up until it's chopped, or rather silage up until it's chopped, might be about 6 shillings. 6 shillings per kg. Once you add the cost of wrapping and baling, that cost doubles. So wrapping, baling, again, is a very big cost driver. So ultimately, we've seen with some of our partners, whereas if you were to buy silage, you would maybe get it for about 18 to 20 shillings per kg. Own production lowers that by 2/3 to 6 to 7 shillings. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, so I'm starting with specific questions to the three of you before I get to general questions, and later invite our audience to ask us questions. And Mureithi, you are an investor. You've been in this sector for a while now, and there are people down here, those following us on socials, who may want to start a feedlot about feeds, and they would want to hear from an investor. What advice would you give them?
Okay, thank you. My name is Mureithi Kengoku. I come from Laikipia, Nanyuki, where we have our feedlot, Gatiko Farm, where we do about 200 animals in just 2 acres. When you want to start a feedlot, you need to have a good advice from the right person. I am happy that Madam Josephine, the photo he has put here for those animals, I think they are from my farm. Yes,
wow.
with my permission. She did it. So that farm is about 2 acres with everything, including the stores, the offices, and everything. So it's done there. But the farm, which is about 30 acres, is just about 2 kilometers from where our farm is. So I have been able to train so many people. I can say up to now we have trained about 230, something like that. And all these people who have been coming there for training, I'm very happy that 5 of them have started their feed lot. And I remember that young gentleman from Pwani University, I can't remember the name, but yes, he's there. What I'm training people now to do is to have a small feed lot that they can even do 5 animals only, not going for 200 like Mureithi, or the way Mr. Jao said that you can have about 1,000 animals. You can start with just 5. We have been here, we have been working with people, we have been working with people that say that in order to make margin, you must do 1,000 animals, you need to do. But we are making our own margin. We have been in that industry. We have done it very simple. You have seen it. We buy posts from ile miti tu ya kawaida. I hope utanikubali. Kisugu na hiyo.
Endelea tu, iko sawa sawa.
Kwa biashara ya ng'ombe na Kisugu hatuelewani sana. So tunafanya ile simple, kasi ile ya rahisi, so that pesa yako ya kununua ng'ombe na kulima chakula isipotelee kwa mjego. So you might be very frustrated. Utajikuta kuwa hutaki hiyo kasi ya feed lot. Utaanza kusema ni kali, ni gumu, ni nini. So I'm very happy that wakati tulianza hii kitu, I learned through the hard way. Nikaenda, nikanunua ng'ombe, nikaleta. In the first place nilinunua jau ambayo ilikuwa ya about 1 year. So hiyo ng'ombe hata kukaa kwangu after 100 days, 90 to 100 days, haikuwa imeongeza kilo ile nilikuwa natarajia, about 150 kilos. So ila makosa ingine kubwa zaidi nilifanya, na sijui kama Madam Josephine amewaambia. My friend, kama huna chakula, kama huna silage, umefunika. Wachana na hiyo biashara. Kama utaenda kununua, utalia. Nilikuwa nausiwa naambiwa, sasa tumekuusia mzuri, you get a kilo at about 20 shillings. Lakini when I produce kwangu, inakuja shilingi 4, shilingi 5, kitu kama hiyo. Na tena, I have the quality. So unakuwa na ile weight gain, ile unatarajia kwa haraka sana. So kwa ile mtu anataka kuanza hiyo kitu, tunaweza anza hata na ng'ombe 5. Mmoja wao ameanza na ng'ombe 3 ambao ni buru za mama yake, za ng'ombe za maziwa, ameweka hapo na zimeanza kuongeza. Unfortunately kuna vitu vingine ambayo inakuwa gumu kiasi, kwa sababu unatakiwa kuwa na ile mezani, ile weigh scale, ukijua inaongeza namna gani. I hope nimejibu swali lako.
Umejibu swali langu, and you've brought a very interesting point that if you do not have your own silage, then utaumia, and that speaks to the cost of feed, Josephine. Yet here we are, farmers would want to have their own silage and would wonder, are there laboratory services for testing to ensure that what they're having is what is recommended, what they're having is quality? So please speak to the availability of laboratory services to support farmers in testing, and how easy it is to find or to get interpretation of lab results.
Thank you. We have labs. Some are owned by government, others by the private sector. We have like Calro, I'm sure they have a lab. The universities that teach agriculture, they have labs. We also have some emerging private sector labs. However, they are not accessible. They are not even known. That is one, they are not accessible. Number 2, the turnaround time, it can take a while before you get your results. the lab that we use, we get 5 to 7 days. So if a farmer has just brought animals and he wants now to, or he has silage he wants to test and start using, it means that you take 1 day to collect the samples and maybe courier to the lab, then those 7 days of analysis, and then now getting the results and now using the results. So you see that period the farmer will have lost a bit of time, and again, the animals are still feeding in his countdown of his 90 days. The other thing about the lab is that the results that come out, you get more proximate results in terms of the composition. You'll get to know how much energy, how much protein, how much digestibility and all that, but you may not be able to understand the fermentation dynamics, whether the compaction was good, whether in terms of the oxygen and all that. You'll not be able to get those dynamics from, I've not seen them in our lab. So it means you can use the results to formulate the feeds, but you may not really learn whether you did well in terms of the fermentation process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the things you're speaking about here, the specific questions we've asked, speak to one thing, because I'm asking about laboratory and availability, asking about what a farmer needs to do. All this speaks to the quality of silage. This is a general question to the three of you. What does quality silage actually mean for beef production? Let's start with you, Tito.
Quality silage means, one, I think, as Josephine had said, energy, some good source of energy. It's quite, I'm not a technical person, I should say, but just from the few years or months in this sector, it's quite holistic. So it has both the bulk in terms of fiber, but also giving the quality. So it's one of the more kind of balanced feeds, and then the price point can be made very good to enable the commercial viability of secondary production.
Commercial viability, keyword, commercial viability. Muriithi, quality silage. You are actually living this, you're practicing this. What does it mean for production?
Good weight gain. Inaongeza kilo haraka vile mwanabiashara anataka. Ukiwa na hiyo. Wale watu tunadilo nao huko Laikipia, ndugu zangu na dada zangu ambao tunadilo na wao na Bwana Jaus, walisema tujaribu hii lugha, so sijui tutafanya aje. Unajua sina kwa kurudi kama tutaongea hiyo ya Tito yote, so sijui vile tutafanya. So ukiwa na ile good silage with good quality, it will give you a good weight gain. I have been a victim of a bad silage, a bad quality silage. And it took us 2 weeks kujua shida ni nini. Ilibidi sasa nipigie Madam Josephine nimuulize, by the way she is a consultant kwa upande wa chakula, nikamuuliza hii shida ni nini. Tukamwambia vile yote tunafanya, akasema chota hiyo weka. Unfortunately ulisema serikali iko na hizo labs. Tukapeleka kwa serikali ikapotea, so another week goes. So tukapeleka kwa private sector. We were told, tuliashiria hiyo ikakua, overgrow. Sasa wakati ili overgrow, it lost the ingredients, ile kitu ilikuwa inatakiwa ikuwe kwake. So kama sasa, na mimi nasema kwa niaba yangu na wale wakulima wengine pengine wako hapa na wale wanataka, kama tunaweza kuwa na access ya hiyo kitu ya RAB karibu na sisi, you can test what you have. Sisi zote tunasemaga hii nyasi ni mzuri, kata weka kwa ng'ombe. Sasa you don't know what it contains. But if you take it to the laboratory, you can know how many kilos do you need. Madam Josephine can tell you with these ingredients you need 2 kilos per cow per day or something like that.
Well, Josephine, what does it mean? The same question to you, to have quality silage for production?
Okay, I guess it's the same, but from a different point of view. If you look at it from the farm, the forage itself, it's also a quality parameter. You plant maize and then you get very small cobs, or you get cobs which don't have grains. That means that cob does not have starch. It doesn't have energy. So again, that is now quality from a nutrient point of view. The other quality parameter is digestibility. You might have silage, but as Mr. Moredi says, it has already overgrown. So when the animal eats, it does not extract any value from that silage. The other quality parameter is about the safety. You know, if fermentation didn't happen, and maybe you had even bad bacteria or fungus growing, and then you're going to feed the cattle, then it will find itself either in the food chain, or it will even affect your livestock. The other quality, again, is from the performance point of view, again, it is the silage that does not upset the stomach because of the way it was chopping and of course, ensiling process and fermentation process. So that is around the quality parameters.
Still maintaining it with you, there are a couple of farmers who I know who have corn silage. We have indicated here through your presentation that corn silage is actually gold. That is the word you used, the best. Yet with this corn silage, where one can achieve up to, is it a kg of weight gain a day? Close to a kg or perhaps over a kg of weight gain a day? 1.5 kg weight gain a day. These farmers whom I know still are achieving a very low quality or very low weight gain, up to 0.5 to 0.7 grams. Is it that we are not doing it right? What is it that needs to be done to get it right? Or are we silaging wrong? Just to paraphrase that question.
We can only tell if we can understand the nutritional profile of that silage. Mm-hmm. That's why we are saying, farmers, you could say you have silage, but you could be having something which is not, it does not meet the nutritional value. Like in Mr. Moredi's silage, the energy was so low. So he was feeding a lot, but the animals were not gaining. Mm-hmm. But earlier, he had another silage which was doing well. So the whole thing is now the way it was made. Then the other factor is, in beef finishing, we are looking at energy. So when you do the profile, you may want to boost the energy with maybe some little grain here so that you can be able to achieve those high weight gains. So there's still a bit of total mixed rationing there that can help you to up the energy and protein.
Tito, as an economist, let's widen this discussion. And we know there is need for supplements in this production. However, I've seen reports indicate that quality silage would actually lower needs for production. Like an economist, give us a proper picture of what this would mean. Per farmer, say, Moredi, how many heads do you have right now?
I'm putting in about 80 by Sunday, and then the other hand will come back later.
So Tito, for a farmer like Moredi, who has about 80 heads, quality silage, and then the supplements that they would have required if they didn't have quality silage, like an economist, what does this mean for them?
So I think the thing to note is that as a country, most of the supplements that we get come actually from our neighboring countries. So the question maybe you're asking is there a displacement that will arise from quality maize silage? If there is a displacement, I believe it would be a good one, because most of that maize silage is homegrown. In fact, would be grown by the farmer themselves, and would therefore reduce even the cost that they incur for the other supplements. Not that they would be totally removed. I'm sure the nutritionists will tell us that there'll still be a need for some of those supplements, either to add energy or to add protein. But the proportion in the food, in the formulation of the feed may be lower, which saves cost. And again, to a large extent would be home produced, so better for the economy. Okay.
Let's hear from the farmer here. Your own experience. Now that you met an expert, she guided you on how to, handle silage and all that. Imekusave cost kiasi gani in terms of the supplements you would have gotten for your livestock?
kusema ukweli is more than 60%. Kwa sababu when ukiproduce chakula yako we mwenyewe, you know the quality ile una produce, unaweza sema hii quality iko size hii, and when you have it ikiwa yako, you determine na haina shida. So when you produce yours, you don't need to go and buy other supplement a lot. Perhaps there are some, what do you call it, the protein that sometimes we had a challenge. Lakini sasa tumeingia maneno ya Rusan, and it is doing the magic that the thing, what we were buying from the shop is replaced by Rusan. So inatusaidia over 60 to 70% the saving.
Okay.
So the profit is high, very high, when you produce your own feed.
60 to 70% saving on production costs.
Yes.
That is impressive, isn't it? Yeah, I think it really is. And Josephine, before I go to the audience and see whether anyone has a question, you mentioned here about the longevity of silage. That is something also cited in very many research documents. However, with this longevity, when silage is properly made, we still have seasonal shortages. We are still told here that we are not meeting the demand for the beef that we require. So, is it that I have silage as a farmer? Is it that I'm saving for tomorrow while starving today? What exactly would inform the fact that there is longevity in silage, yet we are having seasonal shortage?
It now goes to feed planning, because as a farmer, you know how many your production plan in a year. You'll be having 3 cycles or this number of cattle you'll have to finish. So it boils down now into planning. How much silage do I need for this year? And then, of course, things can go south. You need to have your reservoir in case something happens and you're not able to produce. So your bunker, you need to have a bunker, which is a reserve, and we need to produce what you need for that particular year. So it's about feed planning. Number 2 is to have the right silage or the right forage. I wanted to highlight this because there are times when farmers, they become of ambitious, or they want even to make a total mixed ration in the bunker. So they get, like for example, they get some. I have one farmer I know who did sunflower, then sorghum in a bunker, which is okay. Mixing is not the problem, but if you look at the silage itself, the time it was harvested, and now including sunflower, which was already overgrown with the seeds, again, it is limited. How much can you feed the cow because of the oil? Because the fat, of course, there's a limit to which you can give the animal. So that silage now, you have it, but you can't use as much as you'd want to use, unless now you combine with maybe maize or sorghum so that you can be able to dilute the oil effect. So have the right silage, plan, and have your reserve just in case.
Mm-hmm. I have another question for you, and this is from a layman's perspective. I know you made a presentation here, but many would think, what is a conducive environment for proper silaging? You know, he does it in Laikipia. There's someone who would want to do it in a completely different environment, different temperatures, different, let me just say a different environment. So are there specifications for silaging? So that we are able to know with the audience here that if I come from a place like Nyandarua, these are my chances of having quality silage as compared to someone who comes from Wajir or Laikipia. So are there specifications?
Yes. Each agroecological zone has got its own requirements in terms of water, in terms of temperatures. Crops which can do in Nyandarua well may not do well at the coast. So again, we'll select varieties that will suit different agroecological zone, but you can never miss. We have actually planned silage for farmers in Wajir. It's about now, how can they get water so that they can be able to sustain? There's a lot of, it rains, there's a lot of flooding. Then we work around setting up a water pan, and therefore we grow a crop that can be able to to survive under those, the hot conditions, but with irrigation. So there are ways, there's technology to work around different ecological ecological zones, and so it is good to consult that before. Yeah.
All right. I'll take this to the audience and we'll ask someone from the DJ booth to help me with the microphone because we have several people who want to ask questions. Please help me with moving the microphone around. Goko, Asante Sana. I see a couple of hands, 3 people who want to contribute. It can be a question, it can be a comment, just to enrich this conversation that we're having about silage. Let's start with the gentleman in the middle row in a hat. 1, 2. Yeah, you. Start by telling us your name, where you're from, the role you play in the value chain, and your question or comment.
1, 2. My name is Philip Rono. I'm in the finance sector. It's quite evident from this discussion that the fodder, the feed, is a success factor to feed lotting. But looking at the forage fodder or that was discussed, maize seems to be like the star crop. But you see in this part of Africa, the maize competes with the human. Like now a bag is 4,500 of maize. I mean, maybe in Americas, South America, they don't feed on maize as we do. My question is, in some parts in the sugar belt of this country, parts of Nyanza, Western Kenya, and parts of the Rift Valley, the sugar belt, we have this sugar cane. There's a lot of biomass that is left by the farmers, the trash, the sugar cane tops or trash. It's a waste that is huge biomass. Farmers burn them because to do the farms, it's quite inconveniencing as well. Can it be used for silage?
That's a very good question. Do you want to immediately respond before you take the other question?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, in terms of competition, I don't think in Kenya we have utilized all the land that we have. We have a lot of unused land in the country. If you go to some place like I visited Pakistan, you'll find that everywhere they have cultivated. You'll think it's one person's farm. It's all cultivated. But then what they do is that they use the byproducts of these grains to feed, so there's no competition. But in our country, I don't think we have even utilized much of our land. Number 2, in terms of the sugarcane, yes, you can. It may be having a lot of water because of course, the juiciness of the water, but there's always a way of going around it during the processing of the silage, but can be used. Even in maize, we use even the stovers. Mr. Muredi, I'm sure he's using his stovers, the dry ones, because you use it now to provide the fiber. So even the sugarcane, whatever is burnt, can still be used in feeding. It's just that we need to understand, we take some analysis, we see what's the profile, and then we see how to incorporate with other ingredients, and you have a very good feed. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Josephine. Let's have a second question. I see the mic is moving, so I'm trying to see where it will land. All right, let's go to that gentleman, then come back here, then later go to that further end. We will take 3 questions now, then have the panel answer.
My question is for Madam.
Start with your name, sir.
Oh, my name is Dishon. I'm a livestock farmer from Trans Nzoia County. Is the silage process only specifically for beef cattle, or can it be borrowed to some extent for goat rearing, for beef? For meat, that is, because I'm kind of wondering if it has to be custom made for each, because there's for dairy, there's for beef, and then now there's goat, because I'm more of a goat farmer than a cow for beef.
Second question, this gentleman here. Then we'll get the last question from that end. Yes, there's a lady, and I think I had also seen the gentleman raise his hand.
My name is David Odur Olude. David Odur Olude. I'm from Siaya, and I'm not attached to any any organization or NGOs. I'm just on my own. I just came here on my own. I came here because I want to start feedlot. So I wanted to get ideas from experts. I have a question on silage. When you compare with dairy farming, you have specific amount you give to dairy farmers, which is in line with milk production capacity. Do you have such arrangement with beef farming? How much? I want figures now. Figures, not just you give silage. No, I want figures. If you give this amount, the weight gain will be this. That's what I want. And then the next question is so dry matter. That is the hay itself. Yeah, nobody has talked about the hay itself because there are people here who want to know the role of hay in feedlot versus the role you compare that with the role of things like napier grass, which you cut. Yeah, napier grass, green grass, the wet forage versus dry forage. Yeah, in feedlot. Guide us there, please.
Asante, as the mic moves there, there's a lady at that end and the gentleman seated next to her. I think something had been mentioned by Josephine about hay, and it was the fact that silage still carries better value to hay. I think I got that from your presentation, but of course I'm not an expert. You will expound on that. Let's have the lady, please.
Okay, good evening. I'm Balkisa Hassan, a resource development
Please
officer.
speak to the mic.
Okay, I'm Balkisa Hassan, a resource development officer from Tana and Athi Rivers Development Authority, where we basically manage and ensure development within the Tana and Athi basins. So I'd like to first appreciate the panelists for their wonderful insights. On to my question, I'd like to direct my question to Josephine. From your experience, what are the most overlooked feedlot design details that later turn out to impact feed efficiency or cattle health? Thank you.
The most overlooked feedlot designs?
Yeah.
All right. And lastly, please note the questions.
I'm Molioki Douglas. She's my colleague. And maybe my questions align with her, specifically on the design. So when someone wants to establish a mass feedlots, what are the productions, what are the important design considerations that will influence the cattle performance, feedlots efficiency, feeding efficiency, and long-term sustainability? And okay, when someone now want to establish a new one, you want to start from scratch, what are the steps that you are supposed to take now that you want to buy these cows and you want to bring them in the same location with the other ones that were there before, so that you not bring diseases? What are the steps, or what are these considerations, factors that you are supposed to take so that this thing will be efficient and sustainable?
All right, thank you. I think most of these questions fall on Josephine's doorstep, but let me start. Mureithi, I want to bring you to try and answer one that was about whether silage is just about beef or it can be borrowed to the other animals, allow me to say. What is your experience from your farm? Are you limited to beef?
Okay, I do beef, but I also have goats, and with that they do very well in it. but I am not a lot in that department of goods, so I cannot say a lot about it. Perhaps.
Have you tried silage on them?
Yes, and they are doing well, but they are just for when friends come, we sit down, we eat, so they are not commercial.
Give me a date, I want to come. Anyway, Josephine.
Yeah, silage is just a forage that has been preserved, and so any ruminant can eat silage because it is forage. The only difference is the quantities, and again, the production objectives. Then how much in figures? At the finishing stage, you do between 2 to 2.5% of animal's body weight, dry matter. So if you have an animal whose live weight is, let's say, 300 kilos, then you'll do 2 to 2.5% of that animal's body weight of 300 kilos, and then on dry matter basis. So if your silage is 30 to 35% dry matter, then you'll be able to compute backwards how many kilos of silage will give me that dry matter content. I hope I've answered you. Then wet, you see, when you're giving wet forage, much of it is water. You are giving the cow a lot of water. But we want the cow to take in dry matter. That is why we'd rather give the silage instead of giving the green forages. So, but you find that like in dairy, you'll find that farmers will use, the green forages. But most of the commercial farms, you see, they'll have to give silage. They give hay. But now, just for, to keep the cattle busy, they might give some greens. But a bit, little, just a little. In terms of overlooked feedlot designs, I want to have a very different perspective on design, where, for instance, you have enough land, you have good pieces, maybe you have 50, 100 acres or even above, the production system that Giles was describing, and the pastures are good. So the animal is able to get much of its nutritional bulk of its feed from grazing, but we know the pastures are not going to provide all the nutrients. So you prepare a total mixed ration with silage and other supplements, and you just have the troughs within the grazing area, those strips. In Giles' production system, you have some troughs there, and maybe at certain times of the day, you have the cattle come, they eat the supplements, that is silage plus other supplements, to top up what they got in the field. So that is also a feedlot, but it's a very unique and maybe rarely used system. Then in terms of design considerations, maybe Mr. Muredi can give from his practical point of view. Of course, the space, you have to consider the space of the number of animals. The space should be able to fit the number of animals that you're keeping. Of course, the number goes with the weight. So if you know you're going to have big bulls, they require more space. You have to consider the space. You have to consider the water, the height of the water troughs. You have to consider also the walking areas. You also have to look at, maybe I can tie it with the disease control one. You also need to also look at your quarantine areas. You also have to have areas where you can be able to spray. And so there are quite a number of considerations from both the feeding, the comfort of the cow when it is feeding, the comfort of the cow when it is resting, and also restraining the animal when you are doing certain operations. Yeah. Then I think I've addressed the one of disease control. Biosecurity is key. You need to have an area when you bring your cows, which is a bit off, of course, considering the direction of the wind, where you keep the animals to observe them before you mix with the rest of the herd. And the herd that you're already in the feedlot, you also have to use very strict biosecurity practices to prevent diseases into the farm. Thank you.
Thank you. We are coming towards the close of this particular discussion, and I have a general question that goes to all of you, and I want to start with you, Tito. where you have these experienced experts, this wonderful innovation, and I'm thinking about the part of the country that gives us, you know, the most of our livestock, the ASAL regions, 80% landmass, and livestock in that particular area, or in the ASAL regions, actually, are a source of livelihoods for, this is data, more than 90% of the people there. When are we going to have to connect now, to have a nexus between what we have in terms of our expertise and what we have in terms of brilliant innovation to getting to the ground, getting to the most interior part, so that by the time we sit here next year, or in 2 years, or in 5 years, we'll say we have now surpassed the demand locally, and we've actually gone beyond in exporting. We're no longer scratching the surface outside. How do we need to close this gap?
Thank you. It's going to be gradual. I think one starting point will be a general commercialization of animal production in the ASAL areas, such that it moves from not only being cultural and a social aspect of the way of living in those areas, but also has a big commercial component. And the maximization of or optimization of profitability and household incomes would be a big driver towards getting it right. But also technological diffusion happens slowly. So we now have a few of us here and more others out there practicing these innovations in their farms. And I believe there will be a cascading effect through demonstration where one sees the opportunity, not only sees the innovation, but sees the opportunity to make money and adopts it where they are. So it will be gradual, certainly not an overnight thing, but I think once we get commercial incentive right and that technology diffusion, I think we will start progressing.
Mm-hmm. Mureithi, your thoughts on the same? I know you are a farmer in Laikipia, but you must be having this bigger thought of how can my fellow farmers in far-flung areas benefit from the expertise which you have benefited from? Just a thought.
Well, hii kitu ya feedlot is doable, is practical, inawezekana. Hii kati ya wale watu nimefundisha wamekuja huko kusoma shule. Mmoja ameifanya mahali inaitwa Kuramawe in Isiolo, which is dry area. Na kwa hiyo mahali, one of the things sahi ameweka ng'ombe 3 and he is happy about it. Asa nilikuwa nakuja hapa, tumekutana na wazee wa Laikipia Lumuruti marketing, livestock marketing. Unajua wakati tunasema Lumuruti, we all know that Lumuruti means remote route. So that is where the word came from. So wamesema walikuwa kwangu wakasoma na wanataka kurudi tena na wameanza kujenga boma za ng'ombe. Na hawa ni ile wazee wa pande hiyo ya wale wazee ndugu zangu wa Masai ambao wao wanajua ng'ombe haifugiwi, inakula kila mahali. So tuko na hiyo ambao wanasoma na wanaelewa na wanajaribu na wanaona sasa hakuna njia nyingine ya kufanya hii biashara, kwa sababu storage ndio muhimu. Hii nchi inanyesha kama mwaka moja ama miaka 2, inaukauka miaka about 3 or something like that. So storage ya chakula ndio muhimu sana, kwa sababu most of the time hatuna hiyo chakula. Nimeenda for the last 2 months, nimeenda soko ya Garissa. The animals were very expensive. They were more expensive than Lumuruti. I went to Wajir. The animals were so few and they were very expensive. I went to Mayare this week on Monday. Na nikashika kijana moja ambaye kazi yake ni kuandika ng'ombe. Ukinunua ng'ombe yako kama ni yako, unasema iandikwe NTV, inaandikwa hapa kwa mgongo, inasukumwa kwa ile boma. Kaniambia sasa, mzee, unakuja wakati ng'ombe zimekuwa kali, ng'ombe zote zimeuzwa Ethiopia. So I don't know ni nini iko Ethiopia ambayo ng'ombe inaelekea huko. So kwa watu ya serikali pengine ndio wanaweza kutusaidia. Ile kitu ningetaka kusema, kuna watu wengi sana wanataka kusoma. Kuna mathematics pengine Tito atatuambia, ile unasomesha watu 100, watu 50 wanasikiliza, watu 30 wanasema ataenda kufanya. Ni wangapi wanafanyaga? Ni wawili. I don't know that mathematics. So wakifanya hawa, wengine wanarudi tena wanafanya. So if we can have every area moja akubali, it is so good. Yep. The other issue is, wakati tunafanya hii ukulima, kama mimi niko na akina mama from informal sector, ile mahali ya ambao wanakujaga na wapatia kazi wakati wa kupalilia na wakati wa kukata hiyo kitu. So I create job to women, and also I have 2 PW2 those guys wawili ambao they are deaf but wanafanya hiyo kazi ingine yote. So feedlot, it creates job and it has all that, na masomo mingi kwa watu wengi.
Asante sana Josephine.
Thank you. First of all, Kenya is one country that is very unique. One time it rains and we get news all over. There are floods all over and a lot of destruction by the floods. The next time you hear there's so much drought, the animals are dying. What I've learned is that there's so much potential. We just need greater investment in the sector, starting with the county government and the national government, all the development partners and those who are supporting the government. It is important we invest in water. We can have water, we can have earth dams. We don't have to go, drilling boreholes all over. Sometimes even they are not viable and they are also not sustainable. So the first thing is, let's see how much can we harness runoff so that we can open these areas for production. The second one is also to have models that can allow the scaling up. We have now, Gatsby is supporting the investors, individual investors. But these individual investors are now, they are also attracting now the community members who also want to get there. So we should look for models that allow this, the community. For example, can we have community-based, livestock finishing schemes? Can we even have youth? We have, as Pan Africa, we have done one youth, this kibbutz, what is done in India, in Israel, the kibbutz, dairy production in India. Can we also have it in beef? And it is very viable in beef because informally you'll find that most of the pastoralists, they kind of keep their animals together, or they can even buy the graze together. So can we now improve that beyond just grazing? Can they graduate now, produce fodder by getting this support from the investment? So thinking of the business models and also the community-based models, as well as greater investment, and also financing, of course, having more affordable financing for earlier investments, especially for the community and also the youth-based programs. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, because we promised to give you value through this Meet Expo, part of the value that we are to give you is to have contacts of experts, right? Gatsby Africa is an organization that will help you as a farmer in terms of even having feedlots and even professional advice. So right now, I'm going to ask each and every individual from the different organizations they're from. Moreithi, as an investor, you may want to go to his farm and learn and see what he does. You cannot do that if you do not have his contact, right? The same applies to Josephine, a wonderful consultant. We have seen her expertise and it's something we can borrow. And the same applies to Gatsby Africa, here represented by Tito. So I will allow the three panelists to each give their contacts. Not all of us may have time. Tuko wengi sana kuzungumza nao baada ya hii. Contact yenu ama contact your organization, so that by the time we leave here, this audience and the audience following us from our socials will have an extra partner to give them value in this value chain. Let's start with you, Tito.
Maybe I can give out my email address. It's tito.j tito.tb@gatsbyafrica.org.uk. tito.tb@gatsbyafrica.org.uk.
That man is an economist. He can help us in that particular front. Moreidi. You want him to go again? Okay, Tito Rudia.
That's Tito, TITO.TB, TIBI, at Gatsby Africa, GATSBY, Africa.org.uk. Come and see me if you want to get a telephone number.
Understandable. See him in person to get his phone number, but his email address is tito.tb@gatsbyafrica.org.uk. tito.tb@gatsbyafrica. Gatsby is GATSBY.org.uk. Moreidi.
Mine is, what I can give you for now is an email, that is gatiko@company@gmail.com.
Gatiko, Gatiko.
Yes.
And company.
At the company.
So in the email address, the and is, which and? Gatiko? And, okay.
But I have the business company.
Okay, you can get his business cards as well?
Yes, brother contact.
Gatiko and company?
@gmail.com.
@gmail.com. Yes. And finally, Josephine, your contacts as well as the consulting group that you represent, or whichever you feel easy to share.
Okay, I'll give you my email address, and those who want my number, I can give you later. My email is Josephine, JOSEPHINE, @spadafrica.com. Spad Africa is SPARD Africa, small letters, .com. Yeah, I can share my number to those who are interested after the meeting. Thank you.
Let's up the email address for Josephine.
My name is all small letters, JOSEPHINE @Spad Africa. Spad is SPARD Africa.com.